ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أما بعد, the author says on page 15, ta'rifatun awwaliyah. He says basic definitions. We mentioned in our last session the 15 most popular books according to the author with regards to the development and the maturity of the works on al-mustalah, the authored works in the books on the science of al-mustalah. We now get to the part in which the author says basic definitions. He says, number one, علم المصطلح علم بأصول وقواعد يعرف بها أحوال السند والمتن من حيث القبول والرد. He says the first basic definition is the knowledge or the science of al-mustalah, of hadith terminology. He says that the science of al-mustalah is a discipline, a field, an art, a science that deals with principles and maxims. Principles and maxims which allow you to know the conditions of the chains of narrations and of the actual wordings of the hadiths regarding acceptance or rejection. He says that it is a ilm, is a science that is based off of or comprised off of two things. He says usul wa qawaid. He says usul, principles, and qawaid, maxims. What is the difference between an asl and a qaida? What is the difference between usul and qawaid? That has to be explained in another class. But right now in the translation we say principles and maxims by which or through which or which enable the learner and the adherent of that discipline, allows them to have knowledge and to understand and to know the ahwal, what is, what isn't, what's right, what's wrong, what's sahih, what's da'if, who's thiqah, who's kadhab, who's sayy al-hifz, so on and so forth. These different terminologies, what's hasan, what's mursal, what's munqati', what's shad, what's muttarib, what hadith is sahih and why, what hadith is da'if and why. Everybody understand this? He then says number two, mawdu'uhu. He says the mawdu' of the science of al-mustalah. What does the science of al-mustalah pertain to? What is the main subject and field of study in al-mustalah? He says as-sanadu wal-matnu min haythu al-qabul wal-rad. He says it's the chain, the sanad, and the matan with regarding accepting it or rejecting it. Similar to the first concept. So when you study the science of al-mustalah, this is the most of what you're going to be dealing with. Notice that the author didn't mention anything about fiqh. He didn't mention anything about understanding the hadiths, what they mean, the lughah of the hadiths, but he mentioned accepting them and rejecting them from two aspects. From the aspect of the sanad and from the aspect of the matan. That's all the author mentioned. Number three, he says thamaratu. What is the fruit or the fruits? What are the benefits of studying the science of al-mustalah? He says tamyiz al-sahih min al-saqim min al-ahadith. He says the fruit of it is to learn how to distinguish, to differentiate between what is valid, what is invalid, what is strong from what is weak, what is healthy from what is sick, from the narrations. In other words, the purpose of you learning al-mustalah, hypothetically, at this basic beginner's level, what the author says is for you to be able to pick and choose what's sahih, what's da'if. In other words, the initial concept of al-mustalah and learning it is for you to be able to make the ruling on the hadith yourself. So we see from this basic hypothetical definition from this beginner's book is that when you're learning a science and a discipline, it's not made or meant for you to become a blind follower. There are levels to becoming strong and independent. It takes time, it takes a lifetime. But the concept is that you should want to do away with the shackles of taqleed You should do away with the manacles of blind following. And you should want to be emancipated and to be free in your thinking and in your understanding based off of the science. That is the initial purpose. Of course, as we said, that takes a lifetime for a person to reach that level, becoming a true first class expert. And there are levels of being independent, that's first and foremost. Secondly, for the layman Muslim, or for the Muslim who wishes to be studious and who wishes to grow and develop more, even before he learns Arabic, you can't understand what's being said unless you have knowledge of these terms, of these principles, of these maxims. Okay? He says, number 4, al-hadith lughatan al-jadid ويجمع على حديث على خلاف القياس باء اصطلاحا ما أضيف إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قول أو فعل أو تقرير أو صفة. He says the next definition is the word hadith. What does the word hadith mean? He says the linguistic definition of the word hadith, it means something that is jadid. It means something that is new. In other words, we define the term hadith as an adjective, okay? And we define it as a noun. As far as a noun, it means something, and an adjective, it means something else. An adjective means that hadith يعني jadid. Something is new. Something is muhdath. As for a noun, then it means a story or a narrative. The author says in the plural of the word hadith is ahadith. Ala khilaf al-qiyas. And that is pertaining to the science of as-sarf. When you study morphology, how do you make a word plural? There are rules. There are scales. There are aqisa. Okay, the word su'al is made on a plural of as'ila. Silah, asliha. Harf, ahruf. Kitab, kutub. Okay, so as if he's saying that the word hadith should be made on a different, the plural should be different, the qiyas. That's pertaining to the science of sarf. The author says, as far as the terminology, then it is anything that is attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, whether it be a statement, whether it be an action, whether it be a tacit approval, or whether it be a description of the Prophet ﷺ. Pay close attention. The author did not say that the hadith has to be sahih. He did not say that the hadith has to be agreed upon, mutawatir. He did not say that the hadith has to make sense and this and that and so on and so forth. He says, ma udifa, that which is attributed, that which the person says, Muhammad said, Muhammad did, Muhammad allowed, Muhammad looked like this, Muhammad behaved like that. Anything that is attributed to the Nabi al-Kareem ﷺ, according to the scholars of hadith, the traditionalists, it is called a what? Hadith. Everybody clear on that? He then says, ma udifa, anything that's attributed. Everybody clear on this? Anything that's attributed. Regardless, once again, whether it's authentic, whether it's weak, whether it's fabricated, as long as it is attributed, it is classified as what? Sahih. Or excuse me, it's classified as what? Hadith. It's classified as hadith, according to the scholars of hadith. He says a statement, the Prophet ﷺ tells us something. An action, the Prophet ﷺ does something, and the companions, they narrate it. He says a taqrir, something the companions did in front of him in his company and he didn't criticize them for. Or a description, something that the Prophet ﷺ looked like, he talked like, he behaved like this and he behaved like that. Everybody clear on this? Number 5, he says al-khabar, the word khabar. لغة النبأ وجمعه أخبار. اصطلاحا فيه 3 أقوال، وهي أولا هو مرادف للحديث أي إن معناهما واحد اصطلاحا. ثانيا مغاير له، فالحديث ما جاء عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والخبر ما جاء عن غيره. ثالثا أعم من أي إن الحديث ما جاء عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والخبر ما جاء عن غيره. The next term that he wishes to define is the word khabar. He says the word khabar linguistically means a naba. As Allah says, عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عن النبأ العظيم, the great news, great story. And the plural of the word khabar is akhbar. He then says, as far as istilahan, as far as the technical meaning of it in the terminology, then there are three views on what the word khabar means. Number one is that it is synonymous to hadith. In other words, they say hadith and khabar mean the same. Number two, it is totally different. Hadith is specific to the Nabi al-Kareem, and khabar is that which is mentioned from other than the Nabi al-Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam. And number three, some of them say that it's more general. In other words, a hadith is that which is reported from the Prophet ﷺ specifically, and a khabar can be from the Prophet and can be from anyone else. In other words, he's giving you these basic terms and definitions as if he's saying to you that in your study of my book, in your study of the books of hadith, the books of explanation of this hadith, even in fiqh, in usul al-fiqh, or in the books of tafsir, for example, tafsir ibn Kathir or Qurtubi or Tabari, you're going to find these words being mentioned. You're going to find the word khabar being mentioned, akhbar being mentioned. When you study aqidah or tawheed and iman, you're going to find khabar ahad, akhbar al-ahad. What does the word khabar mean? Is it synonymous to hadith or is it different? So he says three different views. Some people say that the word hadith and khabar what? Mean the same. Some say it's total opposite. Hadith is specific to the Nabi al-Kareem and khabar is for other than the Nabi al-Kareem. And others say that they are interchangeable, that a khabar could be from the Prophet, and hadith is only from the Prophet, and khabar can be from the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, etc. Hopefully that's clear. Moving on, he says number 6, al-athar. The word athar, what does athar mean? What does it mean? Ahl al-hadith wal-athar. Ashab al-athar, Ahl al-athar, al-athar. I read an athar of the Sahaba. What does it mean, an athar? He says, lughatan baqiyatu shay. He says it linguistically means the remains of something. Or as you want to say, a trace. The remains of something. A footstep. Something that's left behind, a relic. He says, ba istilahan فيه قولان هما أولا هو مرادف للحديث أي إن معناهما واحد اصطلاحا والثاني مغاير له وهو ما أضيف إلى صحابة وتابعين من أقوال وأفعال. He says the word athar linguistically means the trace of something. As far as what it means in the terminology, he says that there are two views once again. The first is that it is synonymous to hadith. In other words, hadith and athar mean what? The same thing. And another meaning is that it's opposite. Is that athar is specifically used to the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, and those who came after them. Their statements, their actions, and that's it. Brothers and sisters, it's very important for us to understand the true manhajiyya of studying. And that is when you're a beginner, you learn the basic ABCs. You learn the basic things. And as you move further, you'll learn that these things that have been taught to you in this specific manner are not always absolute. And you'll find in different books of the ulama of the past that mention the word athar for hadith. They mention the word hadith for an athar. So it all varies, okay? It all varies. But we're beginners and we crawl before we walk. We walk before we run. And we run before we jump and leap. Alright, so this is the basics. He then says, so therefore we have two contrast views on what the word athar means. The next term is number 7, al-isnad. Al-isnad. What does the word isnad mean? له معنيان. أولا عزو الحديث إلى قائله مسندا. سلسلة الرجال الموصلة للمتن. وهو بهذا المعنى مرادف للسند. The word isnad, and there are many issues here in which the author rahimahullah ta'ala there are some things that are very simple and easy, and there are some things which we feel shouldn't be in a beginner's manual. But this is how he wrote his book. The author says the next term is al-isnad, and he has two meanings. The word isnad has two meanings. The first, he says, is an action, is a verb. Okay, a verbal noun, a masdar. He says, and that is to attribute the hadith to the one who said it with its isnad. يعني أسند فلان الحديث إلى فلان. that Fulan attributed and gave or put the narration to the one who said it with the chain. We don't want to deal with that. We're dealing with the noun. That's it. You shouldn't have even mentioned that. Okay? We're dealing with the noun. Alright? And that is, the isnad is a group or series of narrators. The isnad is a line. It is a quote-unquote chain of reporters that lead you to the matan. It is a chain of reporters that does what? Leads one to the matan. In other words, between Imam al-Bukhari and between An-Nabi al-Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam, there has to be someone. Imam al-Bukhari never met the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He wasn't a Sahabi. So how did he get what the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said? Unless he has a what? An isnad, a chain of reporters, men or women, between him and between the Nabi al-Kareem. And that chain of reporters, men or women, it allows him to be connected and to be a joint and linked up with what? And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. Everybody clear on that? So that's what the word isnad means. The author then says, number 8, as-sanad, لغة المعتمد, وسمي كذلك لأن الحديث يستند إليه ويعتمد عليه. باء اصطلاحا سلسلة الرجال الموصلة للمتن. As for the word sanad, he says that linguistically it means that which is dependent upon, that which you rely upon. And that is because hadith depends and relies upon the chain. In other words, the hadith only comes to us via the isnad. We only realize what the Prophet ﷺ said or claimed to have said via the isnad. So therefore, the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that the sanad linguistically means that which you rely upon. And as far as its the technical meaning, then it is similar to the isnad. It is the chain of men or women, narrators, that lead you to the what? Lead you to the matan. That lead you to the matan. So far, to keep things simple and to simplify them more than the author did, the word sanad and the word isnad have what? The same meaning. They don't have different meanings. So we say the isnad of this hadith is sahih, and the sanad of this hadith is what? Sahih. Everybody clear on that? Number 9. The author rahimahullah ta'ala says al-matin. What does the word matin mean? What is a matin? He says أول ألف لغة ما صلب وارتفع من الأرض. باء اصطلاحا ما ينتهى إليه السند أو ما ينتهى إليه السند ما ينتهي إليه السند من كلام. He says first and foremost the matin. What does the word matin mean? What is the matin? He says linguistically, the matin is that which is erected from the ground, that which is strongly raised and elevated from the ground. That's what it linguistically means. That's the lughat al-Arabiyyah. As far as its technical meaning, then it is the end and the final destination of the what? Of the isnad. The isnad comes first, and the final destination of the isnad is the what? Is the matan. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, Imam Ahmed, Imam Malik, he says, reported to me Fulan, from Fulan, from Fulan, from Fulan, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet says, so-and-so reported to me. The Imam al-Bukhari says, so-and-so reported to me, from so-and-so, from Fulan, and from this one and that one, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Everybody understands this is what the word matan means. As we've explained before in our lessons on al-Bayqaniyah and many other classes and sessions and lectures, the matan is the actual text of the hadith, the wording of the hadith. What the Prophet ﷺ is claimed to have said, claimed to have done, claimed to have allowed, claimed to have looked like or behaved like. Everybody clear on this? This is what we call what? The matan. It's called what? The matan. He then says, number 10, al-musnad بفتح النون لغة اسم مفعول من أسند الشيء إليه بما عنزاه ونسبه له. اصطلاح له ثلاثة معان. أولا كل كتاب جمع فيهما روايات كل صحابي على حدة. ثانيا الحديث المرفوع المتصل سندا. ثالثا أن يراد بالسند فيكون بهذا المعنى مصدرا ميميا. He says here the word musnad with a fatha vowel sound on the noon. The word musnad on the fatha vowel sound on the noon. He says linguistically it is ism maf'ul, coming from the verb asnada yusnidu isnadan. So it means that someone attributes or someone places and attaches something to something else. The technical meaning of the word musnad, there are three usages of the term. Number one, the word musnad, when it comes to a book, we say this is the musnad of Imam Ahmed. This is the musnad of Imam Muslim. Or we find the book of Sheikh Muqbil rahimahullah, As-Sahih al-Musnad, or Al-Musnad al-Sahih, etc. And there are countless of the ulama of the past who wrote masanid, plural of the word musnad. And this is very common, and a Muslim should know about this, because there are many books in English that are translated dealing with references to Musnad Imam Ahmed. Alright? Despite, or no matter what your Islamic orientation may be, the word Musnad is going to be used in many different books. So what does the word Musnad mean? When it's used pertaining to a book, then it is any book in which all of the narrations of one companion are in one place. All of the narrations of a single companion are in one place. In other words, a musnad is not arranged or organized according to the subject matter. The book of Tahara, the book of Salah, the book of Zakat. Rather, all of the hadith that have been reported and that the author of that book he's collected and has come to him via his teachers, his asanid, he puts them in one place. So Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, let's say he has 900 hadiths from Abdullah bin Umar. He's going to put all 900 hadiths of Abdullah bin Umar in one place of his book. And he's not going to spread them out and circulate them from tahara, talaq, buying, selling, jihad, wills, funerals, la. Every single hadith that Abdullah bin Umar narrated that Imam Ahmad wished to collect is going to be in one singular place. This is the brief definition of a musnad, as we have explained before. The next definition, he says, is the hadith which is marfu'. Hadith which is raised and elevated and is attributed to the Prophet, and his chain of narration is muttasil. That is a continuous chain. It doesn't necessarily have to be authentic. It could be other reasons behind its weakness, but at least the chain is zahirul ittisal, is that it is outwardly connected. Number 3, he says here, أن يراد به السند فيكون بهذا المعنى مصدرا ميميا. That the word musnad is similar to the word sanad. The next definition number 11, the author says al-musnid. He says al-musnid with a kasra vowel sound. We have al-musnad with the fatha vowel sound, and we have al-musnad. He says هو من يروي الحديث بسنده سواء كان عنده علم به أم ليس له إلا مجرد الرواية. A musnid is a man or woman who narrates the hadith with a chain of narration, regardless whether they know about the hadith or not, whether they know about its meanings, its ins and its outs or not. But if you quote your hadith with the sanad, you're called a musnid. Definition number 12 is al-muhaddith. A muhaddith هو من يشتغل بعلم الحديث رواية ودراية ويطلع على كثير من الروايات وأحوال رواتها. And we'll mention that in the next class is the muhaddith. What does a muhaddith mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Wallahu a'lam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina Muhammad wa jazakum Allahu khairan.
Uncle Mufti, I got